Yay! Happy Halloween, friends! Here we are. Thank you all for coming to this. And I know you all are here just to sit down, right? Just to take a break. I made the huge mistake of wearing heels today, so I've been doing a lot of sitting. My name is Cassie Smith. I'm the Senior Director of Editorial Content at SupplySide. And I'm really excited about this topic. We don't usually get to do these, I don't know, it's fun. Fun's the right word, right? Just like real issues, man. And I think this is an appropriate, spooky topic for the day, right? Failures, though, but they turn into success. So I'm pleased to bring you two incredible speakers. I feel very lucky that both of you agreed to come, so thank you again. Shaheen Majid, he's the global CEO of Sabinza, and Dan Richards, the Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Now Foods. Each of them will get a turn to speak for about 10 minutes, and then we'll have about 10 minutes for audience questions. So if you wouldn't mind holding your questions to the end, I'll try to get to you. I have a mic. I'll run around. But yes, please bring your questions. I'm sure they would love to answer, and if you don't ask them, I will. And I'm just one lady with one agenda, so help me out. And yeah, great. Shaheen, you ready to go?
I think so.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. You can stand or stand here, whatever you
Yeah, I'd love to stand there. I'm not going to double mic it.
want to see your,
Yeah, I can see it there. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. So I get to go first. When I was invited to talk about this show or this talk, it was about failing forward, so lessons learned in the lab, and I kind of expressed that, well, I learned a lot more lessons, not just at the lab, but everywhere else. So I'm really happy to share some of those examples. I picked 3 examples I wanted to share with everybody here. And I'll start off with the quote, "I like failure. It's so easy to achieve." Said no one. And I say this because I saw Dan's presentation first, and he had all the best quotes. So this is the only quote you're going to get from me. He's got the rest of the other great quotes. But yeah, I am from Sabinza, and we're an ingredient company that primarily looks at Ayurvedic extracts, botanical extracts coming out of India. My father started the company 36 years ago, and it was really humble beginnings, but it was to bridge the gap between Ayurvedic knowledge and modern science. So he wanted to take those basic plants, create extracts, standardize them, and then bring them out to the industry. So we're known for our innovative ingredients. There's several brands here that the companies are well aware of, and you know they're very well aware of because we get oftentimes copied. People like to, copy us. In the one of the very first ingredients was a product that we branded as Citrin, hydroxycitric acid. It's basically for satiety, so it helps you to crave that hunger and ultimately help you lose a little bit of weight. So we had done the preliminary work, we had done some of the safety studies, we have done the process to help extract it, and then we launched it into the marketplace. We were ecstatic. We found a way that it wasn't done before to bring it out to the market and help people with weight loss. But in that, what we learned was the competition also came in, and they oversupplied and they oversaturated the marketplace. The lesson that we learned there was that we did not protect the intellectual property of that particular ingredient, the process in which we made it, the use for which we delivered to the marketplace. It was a slight setback, and now you look at it, Sabinza is well over 500 patents. We have several hundred trademarks, lots of copyrights. We invest heavily into intellectual property rights. Now, don't get us wrong, we're not trying to patent something that we don't want others to have. We patent something so that it's done right for the consumers, so that if you want to complement and license it, you're able to do that. But we want to make sure that it's done right for the marketplace. The other example I wanted to share with you was from an ingredient called Coleus forskolii. We branded it as Forceline. That one we did do the IP, we did patent it, we did do the copyright, we did everything right on that one. What we failed to realize was that this was also a weight management ingredient, but what we failed to realize was that the popularity of this would have such a demand in the marketplace for a natural product for which we did not secure the natural supply of. We were not talking to farmers at that time. We were not telling them, hey, this could be a crop that we need to help cultivate and harvest. Gone are the days for us at Sabinsa where we pick up the phone and try to find this product. Unfortunately, there are still several companies that try to do that in this marketplace, and you start seeing supply chain issues. So the lesson here that we learned through droughts and floods that were happening, this is Mother Nature, so oftentimes she hits you with both of them at the same time. We just couldn't get material. But if we had spoken to the farmers, if we were there on the ground with them, we could have learned so much more about the seasonality, about how they move their products, what we had to do with them. We weren't having those conversations. And so that failure led us into the agricultural era for Sabinsa, where we started talking to farmers on a regular basis. We started dedicating a farm base for Sabinsa. There are acreages, thousands of acres that are dedicated to grow not just Coleus forscoli, this particular ingredient, but others, not only for supply, but also for preservation. So a lesson that we learned from failure to supply will now be for the future, how to prevent that for any crop that we go to harvest. The third and final one before I step off stage is about the communication of science. Sometimes we get wrapped up in things that we know very well, maybe something we've studied really efficiently and effectively, but we did not do that efficiently or effectively to communicate that to the industry. And one of those is a buzzword called bioavailability. And we say it very loosely. You'll see a whole bunch of other companies talking about bioavailability. You now need not be a scientist to ask them, what is bioavailability? Is this something that you just want to see an uptake in the product, or something that you absorb? Because, it's not necessarily what you eat, it's what you absorb. And can they differentiate? Can they answer that? And oftentimes they can't. You probably shouldn't be dealing with that product. But we didn't do a good enough job of explaining that to customers when we brought out the concept of bioavailability. So you took an example of black pepper extract and turmeric. And by the way, this is a very popular combination, only because that's exactly how we take it in India. So it was something very traditional my father found. Again, he did the patent work and the research to extract it properly and bring it out to the marketplace. And when we said bioavailability, people mistook it for something that, I can get more out of and realize an effect. And that wasn't necessarily the case. It was to make the product stronger to deliver over a course of time. And so today you'll have a lot of customers say, you can take my product, you'll feel the effect right away. And that's not necessarily true or right. So our lesson learned there was science cannot be left alone to explain itself, that we also have to be out there educating. So as an ingredient supplier, we take forth programs like Sabinsa on Wheels. Sabinsa on Wheels was there before Meals on Wheels, in case anybody was thinking that. But we were out there going city by city, talking to our customers, educating them on what the ingredients, what they do, how they're found, how they're made, etc. And that really started to change the course of the relationship between vendor, supplier, customer, manufacturer, etc. So summing up the major issues, the intellectual property, the supply chain, and the wrong messaging, and how we tackled it, the developing a culture of understanding technology, go ahead with the developments on the ground with the farmers, and placing education at the forefront. So that's me. Thank you very much.
Shaheen, Dan, ready to come up? Dan Richards, everyone.
So good afternoon, and thank you for your time for late in the day in the show. I can tell you guys all love failure. Just, that's the subject. What I wish this failure was about was failed quality on Amazon. Because some of you know, that's what I want the subject to be, that now has really gotten involved in testing some bad quality stuff on Amazon and then reporting it. So that's a great subject. That's another day. But we are going to have a report coming out this month, within a month, that I think will be pretty exciting. So here's a couple of quotes that I like your quote better, actually. I did. I read it first, and I thought it fooled me, so I thought that was really good. But a couple of quotes, you probably heard the Thomas Edison one where he talked about he didn't fail, but he's just tried 10,000 times and didn't work. And then Bill Gates says it's fine to celebrate success, but it's more important to heed the lessons of failure. So we're a family business, and actually we got talking and we have a lot in common as far as family businesses. I don't know if they call you this, but they call you the SOB at the business?
No,
That's
no.
the son of the boss,
Yes.
right? So we have that in common. But my dad started our business back in 1968. He inherited, a head start from my grandfather, who bought Fern Soya Foods in 1948. So anyway, I joined the business part-time in 1980 and then full-time in 1985. So I actually brought an original catalog here. This is 1980. This is about 20 pages. You think this is a photocopy catalog. This was our catalog. It was black and white. It was as ugly as can be. And if you look through the products, you're going to think, wow, this is a failing business. How we got here, I have no idea. The prices are incredible, though. B1 powder, 30 grams for 98 cents. Like, that's the average in here. So 1980, it's a legit catalog if you want to see this later. So we did have almost 800 SKUs 45 years ago. Some people think that now is a newer brand and we're just about vitamins. Well, no. So we started in 68. By 72, we had a good number. And by 1980, we had almost 800 SKUs. So half of those were foods and half were something else. We sold some third-party things like Hunza, dried fruits. That was a different brand name. A few odds and ends like loofahs. My dad had a thing where he wanted Now Foods to sell anything unique that stores would have an advantage over. And he let this go crazy. So when I come in and I see, why in the world are we selling molybdenum powder that we sell 5 units a month on? Who thought of this thing anyway? Got to be a little bit more tactful than that, but my dad was a scientist, as we share that blood also, and sometimes science and marketing leave something to be desired. One of the products we distributed was actually ginseng cigarettes. We sold ginseng cigarettes and menthol cigarettes back in 1980. Fortunately, we dropped those. So anyway, in 45 years, we've actually dropped 95% of our lineup. That's pretty incredible. And I would say of all the companies and brands represented here, we've got to be the biggest loser as far as dropping products, because we've dropped, this is over 700 SKUs, and then since then, another 1,000. We've dropped that many SKUs. These are branded products. So most brands or companies don't have that many in their lifetime. Well, that's part of our company. So here's a short list of examples of some of our worst. You look at these like, who came up with these ideas? So in foods, I grew up as a kid packaging all these things. Like we had Carib raisins, you package a little bit, you eat a little bit. That's what you do in the family business. You kind of, you just do what you need to do. But we sold bulk guar beans, molasses powder. These are really weird things. On the vitamin side, you see dolomite powder. Can you imagine someone introducing dolomite today? Like you'd think, what planet are you on? We had copper powder and manganese powder. These are weird things. It's actually, those had a good reason. So in the early 1970s, there was a good chance that vitamins, basically, they were going to be outlawed. So anything over a certain potency was going to be considered not allowed to be sold. So my dad had the idea of powdered vitamins. And for minerals, he made mixes. So he might mix it with yeast or some other base, but he wanted to sell powdered vitamins, and the dose might be like 1/10 of a quarter teaspoon to get, say, 50 milligrams of B6 or B1. And that was his way that he thought, in case the FDA clamped down and didn't allow us to sell, that he'd be able to still have a business. So sometimes products come out and then things change. So that's what happened in that case. So we had all these weird powders, and we still have some weird powders, but in those days we had a lot of them. Then we also had some things like Tiger Balm and rice crackers, so that just happened to be one of my dad's favorites. So somewhere along the line, I came up with a great idea. and it was called Richard's Finest Vitamins. That's my last name, Richard. So about the mid-'80s, we started taking off, but some customers just didn't like us. So now had a stigma for low quality. So people would say, we don't want your things, it's too low quality, the price is too cheap, I don't want it. So I came up with the idea, I said, what would really be great is to have a glass bottle, kind of like Solgar, except silver. So we had silver foil labels, glass bottle, silver foil lids. It was a great package. And we had some custom products. We kind of mimicked Source of Life from Nature's Plus. And it was a great package. And the kind of the trick of it was to have buy 9, get 3 free for any store. So it was really, a really well thought out plan, I thought. But I really failed with one big thing. It was a total failure. Customers didn't buy it, they didn't want it. So my biggest failure that I learned is I didn't ask customers ahead of time about it. We had one chain in Florida. The chain's name was Florida. It was called Richard's Natural Foods in Sarasota. They were one of our largest accounts. I figured 100% they're going to love this product, they're going to buy it, and we're going to sell a ton. They didn't buy any. So my biggest fault there was I never asked. I never talked to the customer ahead of time. Here's just a quick review, but we have dropped over 1,000 products in the last 24 years. Literally 1,000. The FRC we've dropped twice, just for whatever. So we introduced it the first time, we had a quality failure, we dropped it for about 5 years, we came back with a third-party maker who made it for us. We had problems again, and eventually we dropped it again. Some other ones, just a wide variety. Some are fad diet products, they come and go. Some sports nutritions, they come and go. So the best you do as far as doing all your homework, to plan ahead, life changes. So our best laid plans sometimes just don't work. So lessons. You all know the 4 Ps of products, so nothing new there. I would say the most important thing out of this, whoops, we jumped ahead. The most important thing out of this is talk to customers. So product, price, position, everything, they're all important, but the most important thing that I give as a recommendation is talk to customers. So we have a lot of vendors like you who have branded products. I wish that the branded product suppliers would come to us a year ahead of time, not a week ahead of time, and say, we're thinking about this new super duper thing, and we're going to do 2 clinicals here, and we're going to name it this and price it at this. What do you think about it? We would love to get feedback on things like that. What typically happens is a brand might come out a month before it's on the shelf, and it's too late. You've already got your decisions made, your whole pipeline's all set, all the research done, pricing's all set. It's too late. So if you want to take anything away, my suggestion is to talk to your customers and ask questions ahead of time. Will they buy what you're wanting to sell? That's the main question. Not do they like it, will they buy it? And also, ask about the name, because there's an awful lot of weird names in our industry. I went to our vendor, Horfag, today. Their product name is Pycnogenol. I said, of all the names in the world, I would have bet against that one, because that's a weird name. But that's been a successful product, despite its name. Not because of the name, I have to say despite the name. So, final, there's a book out called Fail Fast, Fail Often. You can have a look at that. And it just gives a lot of different tips for things. But my main guidance is talk to customers. If you want to avoid problems, talk to your customers, ask them questions, and keep talking. Thank you. 3 seconds.
You did good. Good job, both of you. Questions
After 2
for
years.
yes, buddy. Here you go.
Thank you. A couple of questions, related questions. One is, in your experience, why didn't the customers want the product? It seems you made that product in response to a previous product's failure. So you were kind of going in the direction of what you thought the customers wanted, a premium product versus a cheap product, perceived cheap product. A related question is you can ask the questions to customers about what they want, but I guess in some circumstances maybe they don't know what they want unless they're sold it. Where does that fit into your guidance?
Yeah, they say that about an iPhone. They say nobody knew they needed an iPhone until it came along and you realized you can't live without it, basically. So if I can answer about the Richards.
No, please, yeah.
So on the Richards Finest, so it was a premium product. We were not a premium brand or premium company. So the customers who bought from us in those days, they bought into not low value, to good value, low prices. They did not want to buy expensive brand from a low price company. And we heard that kind of over and over. So our assumption going in was, of course, they're going to love it. They'll get the value brand now, and then they'll get a premium here with a nice spiff, but it didn't work at all. If Sabinsa brought it out, you probably would have bought it.
Thank you.
Other questions? I have one. So you both have been in the industry for a long time. And I guess, what do you see, are there common mistakes being made by new players?
The question was, are there common mistakes being made by... Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, in our world of ingredient supply, the common mistake, maybe I can be specific on the regulatory front. They think that because an ingredient is there in Europe, for example, they can just go right in and do their thing, and they oftentimes end up hurting people because they've done it wrong. They didn't do the science right. They didn't get the material right. They didn't follow through on the pesticides and the heavy metals, et cetera, et cetera. So that's just on the regulatory front, and you keep seeing those same mistakes happen no matter how many times industry, trade organizations, and consultants and other people talk about getting the product right. You still see that ingredient go wrong in other marketplaces. And that's just a small example from my side.
One thing that comes to mind is, if you're like me, you assume you know better. That's what I assume. I assume I'm right. So if I have a great, bright idea, I'm assuming I already know the answer. Why would I ask somebody else the question? So I think sometimes we do that in business. We do some of these things. So for instance, if one of you is going to introduce a new curcumin product, it's like just what the world needs, another curcumin product, right? There's already like 100 million of these. But we do the same thing as a company. We bring out the wrong product or the wrong time. We're just too late because we think we know better and we haven't talked to our customers.
More questions? I'll keep asking them. I'll just keep going. We have 6 minutes, guys. I have the mic, so. Dan, I guess my question for you would be, you had the resources to try a lot of things at Now and dump products and projects and try them again. For brands that maybe don't, and they're like all in on one or two products, like finished products or ingredients, what do they do to sort of make sure that it's not a failure? Are there steps you can, it's never guaranteed, but what do you think are some specific steps they can take?
So she's asking, is there a guarantee on how not to fail?
Maybe ways that would help make it so they don't fail. What are some very specific things they should keep in mind? Steps.
What are the steps how not to fail?
So the exact opposite of this presentation.
Yes.
Take it away.
If they don't have the money or the time or the resources to fail, what do they do?
My experience, we're too good at failing. So, and everyone's different. So some brands will introduce one product a year, and you got to put 100% of your effort and everything. Our brand happens to introduce about 60 SKUs, 70 SKUs per year. So we can afford to fail in whatever, 10 or 20 of them. That's just normal. It's kind of like when a cereal company comes out with a new flavor of Cheerios. How many flavors of Cheerios does the world need? And you go to some stores and you see like 20 of these, and there's a point when it's enough. But I think it always goes back to talking to your customers. Do they want what you're thinking of? But the other thing is, you really got to swing to get a hit. So if you if you're too cautious and say, well, it's too risky to introduce new products, it's too expensive, I'm not going to do it, well, eventually you're going to die because every business lives on new products. So you got to take your best shot, you got to swing, and see where they fall.
Shaheen, anything to add to that?
Yeah, no, if I can share an example, maybe not exactly about what we got everything right about, but let's talk about curcumin, for example. So when we brought it out in the late 80s, early 90s, and my father went ahead, he got a patent on it, and it was great. We were extracting it, we were supplying. Unbelievably, the sales of it did not pick up until after the patent expired. So now you start diving into, okay, why? There's only one reason that I could come up with. One reason my father and I unanimously agreed on: the competition. The very fact that we allowed entry for competition to come in against our branded ingredient allowed for that product to grow. And it grew like anything. Every list you will pick up on natural extracts or botanicals or supply, turmeric is at the top of that list. And it's not just being used as a spice anymore, it's used for remedies, for ailments, for something you want to feel good because you're taking it. But that did not happen until the patent was over. So I've stood up here and said, we got 500 patents. Give it about 20 years, it's going to take me to recoup on that for the supply. No, not necessarily. It was probably because we weren't out there allowing Kirkman to grow. We could have had other strategies that we could have played around with in those 17 to 20 years you get on a patent to help grow that market. Even that's a lesson we're learning, and we're trying to apply it for different ingredients that we come out with. So I thought that example was, kind of interesting and quirky at the same time. You have this great product and it wasn't successful until after you don't have the patent anymore, but, we're learning.
Question.
Not to keep you away from your patent removal, but you said that was in the 80s, correct?
Yeah, it was 1995 or 6 that he got the patent. In about 88, when he started the business, turmeric was one of the first 5 that he was developing to extract.
Do you ever consider what the social and trend are going on, not necessarily in the industry, because I know yoga broke out at that time.
Yeah.
And everybody I knew from the East Village no longer wanted to be an independent filmmaker, they wanted to be a yoga instructor. So Indian food, all of those Ayurvedic things came in at that time. So it's not to eliminate what the societal trends are, because not only in the food and dietary supplement, but what also is going on in the cultural.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think I can deny that, and I think there's a timing to everything. We just saw the time exactly after our patent ended, the sales went up. And hey, it could have certainly happened that way where people got it. People got the messaging more, maybe. That's also important. But yeah, there's no discount to the fact that the world's intertwined. The stars aligned, as they say.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both so much for offering your advice, and thank you all for coming. Enjoy the rest of the show. Happy Halloween, and can you guys stick around for a second to maybe chat with folks if they want?
Yeah.
Thank you all so much. See you later.
Thank you.
Thank you.